Well, hello again. I'd like to thank everyone for the very kind comments and faves I got on my previous video, and given the slightest encouragement, I'm going to have another go. This time I thought I'd share some techniques for repairing a picture which hasn't quite worked. So you can see in this case I've got 4 shots of this Spitfire, which I took at Flying Legends a few days ago, and this one here, this first one here, is almost a very good shot, quite well focused and panned, but the very tip of the spinner is missing off the picture, and that really ruins it. And looking at the successive shots, or these next two really aren't any better, but this one taken about a second later, at least it has the tip of the propeller spinner in it, albeit that the aircraft has started to turn away to the right. However, I think there's probably enough there to have a go at completing this picture on the left. So let's move into Photoshop and have a look at that. So here we are in Photoshop, and I've got the 2 pictures open. So there's 2 tasks really needed to add to the spinner here. Obviously we can just copy it off here and of this picture and paste it over. However, it would just be hanging off the edge of the picture. There's no background for it to go over. So the first thing I need to do is create some additional background for this picture. Now, it's relatively straightforward to do. So what I'm going to do is firstly create some additional canvas for it. So as well as changing image size, you can change the canvas size, so it's sort of the frame in which the picture sits, and we can very easily do this. I'm going to add 1.5 centimeters, just over ½ an inch, to the left hand side of the picture, and that'll give me some room to work in. Next I'm going to take a chunk of the picture, existing picture here, from the left, extreme left, just go up as far as the propeller blade, and by pressing Ctrl J I can move that little strip up onto a new layer, and then with Ctrl T I get the option to change the size of it, and holding down the Shift key, because I don't want it to get taller, just wider, I'm going to drag it right the way over, just slightly beyond the left hand edge of the picture, and accept that. So now we've got pretty good extension. You can barely see the join. There's a little area there which might need a little bit of tidying. In fact, one thing I will do is I'm just going to move this whole section into the right a couple of pixels, and that will give me a little overlap to work with. So really the thing I need to correct on this section is the spinner, which has obviously been stretched into it. So fairly simple way to do that is I'm going to use the lasso tool and just make a little circle around it to give it a bit of extra material. By holding down Shift and Backspace, we get this little dialog which we can select Content Aware Fill, and it will delete the piece of the spinner and replace it with some sky from around it. So let's just see how well it's done that job. Not too bad, not too bad. So I need to do a little bit of repair on it, but not a great deal. And the way I'm going to do that is using the clone stamp tool, which is this one here, which is copy, hold down the Alt key to set an area to copy, and just go down into there and copy over the sky or cloud behind to do that. And then if I bring back the aeroplane layer, you can see that apart from the overlap onto the spinner, that background's looking quite good now. I'll just apply a layer mask to it, and using the brush tool and painting in black, just go over where I can see just a hint of the hard edge. There. Soften that down a bit. Right, so that's that bit done. Now the next thing we need to do, of course, is collect a bit of the prop spinner from this image. So let's zoom right in so we can see what we're doing. And then using the magic wand tool, just click W on the keyboard, we can make a selection just up to there, I think will do. Okay, that's fine. And when I was practicing earlier, got a bit of a jagged edge to it. So what I'm going to do is just modify the selection by expanding it just by 2 pixels, and that should do nicely. Again, I'm going to do Control J to put it onto a new layer. And I just want to check and see how good the selection is. So putting a new layer in there and filling it with white will enable me to see if I've inadvertently got more than the spinner. And you can see that I have. So very simply go up to the layer on which it is, press E for the eraser tool, and just erase those items which I don't want included. Good. And now I can Control click and then do Control C to copy it back to this image, Control V to paste in the new spinner. And we can move it across into there, and now I'm going to zoom right in to get the position. Okay, so selected the move tool and using the arrow keys where I can move it 1 pixel at a time just to get the alignment pretty much perfect. I think that will do. Now there's a couple of things not quite right. Firstly, it's obviously darker than the rest of the spinner, and there's a little white splodge at the top there which we carried over from the background. Now that's quite easy to deal with because it's part of the additional strip I created at the beginning. So just going to paint with black in the mask, and that should clear that out of the way, and it does. Okay, with that in position, it's really looking quite good shape-wise, but it's obviously rather too dark. So I'm just going to apply a levels adjustment to this bit of spinner. So I'm holding down Control and click to select it, and then apply the levels layer and just bring the brightness up so that the color matches quite closely. Okay, not perfect, but for the purposes of this picture I think it will do. And so if I now zoom back out to look at the whole picture, that slight mismatching color really isn't visible. So there you are. I think overall I've got a picture, whereas previously I didn't have one, and I'm quite pleased with the result. I've got the entire aeroplane and spinner in now. So if you have been, thank you very much indeed for listening.